welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Happy Thursday, happy new moon in Virgo, happy eve of Mercury going direct. I'm back at it with another video. Make sure you click the button below so you're alerted as to when I have new videos coming out on the channel. This is all going to be about this upcoming Sun in Virgo in opposition to Neptune in Pisces. Oh boy. I feel like this is one of those videos that is going to seem like super unreal. So I was looking through all the headlines of stuff that I'm going to talk to you guys about today, and I was like, I don't know if I want to laugh or if I want to cry. So bear with me as we go through this video today. I will be discussing how some of this Sun-Neptune opposition energy is playing out. Quite frankly, I wanted to get ahead of it before we start to see this set up. If you're watching this today, it is September 14th, but this particular aspect will not be playing out until closer to September 19th. So you may be feeling this energy building over the next couple of days that we're going to see this opposition. As I was sitting and thinking about how I wanted to tackle this particular video, after looking through all of the headlines, what came to me was like a T.S. Eliot quote, the one that goes, "This is the way the world ends, not with a bang, but with a whimper." We know that Pisces represents anything that is hidden, okay, that is secretive, that is behind the scenes, spiritual, elusive, some may say a bit conspiracy-esque. So I think some of us are going to be asking ourselves this week, who's in charge anyway? Could not find an apostrophe for my sign. I was half tempted to put who is in charge anyway. Definitely pun intended. If those of you guys can kind of read between the lines, you're going to have to read between the lines this week because there's going to be some weird shit going on in the world. So let's just jump right into it. Let's talk a little bit about this. So first we'll talk opposition, then we're going to get into talking about the ways that I'm seeing this playing out collectively in the world, and then we're going to get to the 12 signs, because all y'all gave me so much slack in the comments this week going, where's the 12 signs? For aspects that we've covered so many times. So yes, I saw your guys' messages. We're going to do the 12 signs in this video. All right, so who's in charge anyway? That's the real question. We know that the sun in astrology deals with power figures, authority figures, men, those are in charge, leaders. Okay, so the sun is going through the sign of Virgo right now. We're actually coming into a new moon in Virgo. And things feel a little spooky, huh? Things feel a little kind of weird. Perhaps it's because we're in this dark moon phase, but also I think it's this building opposition to Neptune. So with the sun in Virgo and Neptune in Pisces, this is definitely going to have an impact on everybody's experiences throughout this next week. An opposition represents a 180-degree angle. So it is what we call relational, okay? So this opposition is relational, and we've got a slew of planets right now today in Virgo. Mercury is getting ready to station. It's going to go retrograde tomorrow. The sun and the moon are forming a new moon, and this is all in trine to Uranus. So I kind of said, you know what, screw it. We're gonna do an unhinged video today. So let's talk a little bit about this. I mean, the sun in Virgo, we see the sun go through the sign once a year. The sun in astrology does connect also on a personal level to our core identity, our ego, and our conscious self. Okay, so think awareness. And as the sun is going through Virgo, Virgo is an earth sign, so it's very grounded, it's practical, it pays attention to details, and there is a strong sense of duty because it wants to get something done. So we have that kind of energy out in the skies right now, a lot of focusing on the details or improving ourselves in some capacity, and being more so aware of our surroundings. Now, Neptune is in Pisces, all right, and Neptune is retrograde. So Neptune is associated with dreams, illusions, spirituality, the unconscious mind, and Pisces is a mutable water sign. It's deeply emotional and very intuitive. So Pisces is one of the home signs basically for Neptune. I guess Neptune and Jupiter both rule Pisces, but if you're a modern day astrologer, you consider Neptune to be at home in this particular sign. And with Neptune moving through this, it does touch a lot on blurring the boundaries between reality and fantasy, right? So things are less clear. It's cloudy, it's foggy, there is some sense of like mystery that's going on with this Neptune transit. And then we bring the two that are into opposition. Now, part of the reason why I wanted to get ahead of this early is because you're going to hear so much wild stuff in the news the next couple days. It's going to be like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. We're not going to know what's true or false. We are also going to be seeing later today, the moon just after that new moon will start building into an opposition with Neptune. And I think it's going to definitely lay out that haziness for some of us where we're going to be like, wait, what's going on? And it's like a bit of a record scratch. Now, oppositions are challenging, right? This is what we consider to be a hard aspect. And with this opposition, there is tension between the earthy energy of Virgo and the more spiritual, kind of mystical side of Pisces. So one of the big themes that you're going to see with this building opposition that will be taking place on the 19th, so let me take you there. But if you're astrologically sensitive, you're already feeling it. I am definitely feeling it. That opposition is going to come in at 26 degrees and change. So let's get real specific here. Try to give you guys as many details as possible. So it looks like it's going to be coming in early morning on September 19th. Personally, I work with a 2-degree orb. So, you know, from 24 degrees to about 0 degrees of Libra, we're going to be feeling this particular opposition. But confusion is the name of the game. Okay, that is what we see with Sun in opposition to Neptune here. It's possible that you may feel torn between your desire for clear practical solutions, Virgo, and your fascination with the mystical or the abstract or things that might feel kind of otherworldly, Neptune. This could lead to confusion about your life path, your direction, or your goals. I've seen so much of this stuff. I've seen GPSs going haywire and getting lost while I'm in the car. I made the mistake of just taking my car in the day before, you know, the Mercury retrograde ends to go and get something fixed. Go in there to get it fixed. It gets overlooked. They're like, no, we got it. I come home only to find out that it was like not fixed at all and it was like falling apart, right? So it talks about blind spots, especially when it comes to people who are meant to be guiding us, helping us, assisting us. Virgo is fixing things, it's cleaning things, it's, you know, the assistant that might, you know, overlook a small detail. It might be, you know, the pet sitter that misplaces, you know, the dog's leash. But it can also be things that are being overlooked in healthcare and wellness positions as well. Now, we are going to see conflict between idealism and realism. And many of us might be struggling with that this week, balancing our idealistic tendencies with the need to face practical everyday responsibilities. And so where Neptune kind of says, crawl back into bed, you know, kind of sleep in for an extra 20 minutes. You know, Virgo is saying, no, let's get up, let's get things done, let's get things going. And so there can be a sense of feeling like we're kind of getting pulled in two different directions. We may be feeling more idealistic and creative and optimistic and open-minded, but some of us are doing that almost to a fault, while others are getting kind of lost in the daily grind and, you know, just going through the motions and starting to lose faith. We're starting to lose optimism about the future. So you can fall on one end of the spectrum or the other. For me, I think boundaries is the bigger issue because Neptune definitely blurs boundaries. The opposition can make it challenging to establish clear boundaries in our personal and our professional lives. Now, this is going to happen in a different area for all of you guys, but just generally speaking, to me, this feels like almost like, it's like the term that kept coming up for me while I was writing this is like soft power. You know, like softly kind of doing things where just slowly we're kind of chipping away at something. And like, you know, water does give us the opportunity to heal and to like move mountains, to move earth and move stone. So that is the nice thing about this, that if we just stay focused on the little details until we kind of bring the dream to reality, we can get something done. But there's also the possibility of kind of getting stuck and not being aware of where our boundaries start and other people's begins, and there's almost like this fusion of energy that happens where we can get engulfed with other people's stuff and we can get kind of slimed. Sacrifice comes up as well because we find that with Neptune, that's a huge theme. So you may feel this week that, you know, you're prone to sacrificing your own needs and your desires for the sake of others, for some idealistic cause, right? And you're going to hear, I think, a lot about peace. How do we find peace? Does it make sense to not be, pushing certain agendas or certain narratives? And like, how can we find ways to be able to be more open to there being more, kind of peace in terms of our relations to other people? What sacrifices are we making on a personal level for other people, right? So that's going to come up as well. Creativity and spirituality. So, I guess on a positive note, this can be a little inspirational for some people. This aspect can enhance your creativity and your spiritual awareness, and you may have the opportunity to deepen your connection to an art, music, meditation, or other forms of creative spiritual expression, because this is the realm of Neptune. And as we have the Sun and Mercury, in the same sign starting to come into this opposition, we're going to go, oh, okay, where are we learning to lean into the magic of intuition and feeling and kind of tapping into spirituality or feeling in kind of flow, right? Neptune is about flow of things and events. And then finally, escapism. So be very cautious of the potential for escapism this week, as Neptune's influence can sometimes lead to a desire to avoid reality through various means such as daydreaming, substance abuse, or other forms of distraction, mindless scrolling, avoidance, ghosting, staying in bed, not wanting to kind of deal with the harsh realities, the facts and the figures with these various planets that are in Virgo. While this opposition sets up, keep in mind that Mercury is or has just turned direct after 3 long weeks of a retrograde with some really difficult oppositions to Saturn. So we see Mercury and Saturn making that opposition where it's difficult to relate, but likely there's some kind of information that's coming out. And it can be information that's been delayed that's finally starting to make its way through. Generally, when Mercury goes direct, there is some kind of news that makes headlines right when the Sun is making its opposition to Neptune. So I feel like it's like, well, we didn't want to say anything, but here it is, right? So this particular opposition is going to be taking place at 26 degrees. Now, quite frankly, those of you guys who are Virgos, Leos, and Pisces, you guys are going to be feeling this the most strongly. Leos because the Sun rules your chart, and Virgo and Pisces because it's happening in these particular angles, especially if you have any personal placements 24 to about 29 degrees. You're going to be feeling this the most. And we know that when we have planets that are going through the mutable signs, it represents some kind of energy change. Changes of weather happens with this pretty significantly. We're going to talk about that today. But we also see something that's kind of ending and giving way as we're actually getting ready to go into the fall equinox here in the Northern Hemisphere. So we're going to be starting Libra season here pretty soon with a bang. Not to toot my own horn, but I've got like a killer video that I've put together for you guys where we're going to assess the fall equinox. We're going to talk a little bit about what it means because there's some very strong symbolism that comes through that chart. So I'm excited for that. So let's talk about 26 degrees, right? So let's see what Nicola has to say about 26. That is a degree that is associated with Taurus. Okay, so it's in Virgo, so it is productive, it is earthy, but 26 degrees relates to Taurus. So specifically, this has connections to money, okay? And one thing that you guys want to think about is that Mercury just went direct. Throughout this retrograde, Mercury's been in a trine to Jupiter, so there's been information coming out about technology, about resources, about laws, Jupiter, about tech, AI, that's going to be something else we're going to talk about, but also the banking system, right? Jupiter retrograde in Taurus, whether or not inflation is going to continue to grow, if we're going to keep seeing them print money. So something about this opposition, because the Sun is connected to Mercury, Mercury's trining Jupiter, there's something about being like, this thing is happening, but nobody wants to kind of directly deal with it head on. That's one thing you're going to notice about stuff this week is nobody's really going to want to talk about the elephant in the room. Or there's going to be illusions or kind of like dancing around things and trying to find ways to like not make some kind of financial situation or some very physically obvious situation like the topic of the day. All right, so 26 degrees, money, wallets, resources, banks, bank employees, the economy, an economic issue, an economist, and bankers, okay? It was really weird. I mean, it was like I was talking to my husband earlier this week when we came back from getting the groceries, and he was like, why are they so expensive? And I was like, because like of what's going on with the economy. And he's like, well, yeah, I know, but like I didn't really feel it until now. So definitely had that Sun-Neptune opposition moment that's like, wait a second, how much are we spending on groceries? And I actually went back and started looking through the grocery orders and what we spent over the last 6 months, only to see so many items skyrocket in price. Taurus deals with food, abundance, and resources, but it also deals with real estate. So I think that this might be interesting because 26 degrees does deal with farmers, it does deal with villages, it does deal with estates, it can deal with physical property, it deals with eating things, food, kitchens, things that are fatty, nature, forest, biology, kitchens, gardens, anything connected to the throat or the neck, to grow, raise, to possess, what is mine, okay? So what is my purpose? You might find yourself asking yourself this. For me, you know, obviously the title is like, who's in charge anyway? That came to me because I was thinking about, you know, like in the 90s or the early 2000s, the show Whose Line Is It Anyway? And you see like these goofy comedians get up there and they have like that, you know, the card that they pull or whatever that they have to kind of act out, and they're all, you know, doing this like comedic, you know, bit. And you never really know what they're going to say. It's all just like off the cuff. And they'll look to each other and go like, okay, well, I'm going to say this, and what's your response going to be? And they're constantly looking at each other and checking in with each other to see like, okay, well, whose turn is it to go? Or what are they going to say? Or how are they going to respond? Usually trying to make each other kind of crack up laughing, right? So for me, the Sun in opposition to Neptune is a lot of like, who's in charge anyway? We're all looking around wondering who's going to step up and like who's going to be the hero, or who's going to jump in and fix a financial situation, or jump in and give us something that we need, or assist those who are in need. But I think we're going to be finding that we are realizing this week that we have to be looking out for our own. We have to be mindful of what we can control, what we can grow, what we possess, what we have, taking stock in that. So that's very 26 degrees. And then the other connections are to anything green, or to singers, opera singers, throats. Part of me wonders if we're going to hear more about somebody who's having issues with being unable to perform because of like health related reasons. I think I heard about this, but I don't think it's connected to the throat. But I think it was like Bruce Springsteen recently. He's got some health stuff going on that could definitely be Neptune. But it reminds me of like when Adele wasn't able to have her shows because she was having some vocal issues. So I'm wondering if something like that's going to go down this week. But the long and short of it is, I definitely think this is going to deal more with planetary things going on with the earth and plants, and with food, and also with money. So I think that's going to be like the big takeaway, okay? Now, if we read the Sabian symbol for this, obviously we're going to round up. So we're going to read 27 degrees. And those of you guys who are not aware, I know there's been a number of people who are like, I can't find it. Click the description button below, okay? So the description is going to drop down. You're going to see a ton of links. I have an Amazon storefront where I have a list of all of the books that I use on my channel, things that I'm reading, things that I would recommend, mostly relating to astrology and tarot, but there's a whole bunch of books on tyranny there as well. So you can educate yourself, and a lot of other like lists of other recommendations that people have asked for. So you can check that out. Okay, so those of you guys who have this book, it's page 206. And Virgo 27 says, Grand Dames at Tea. The theme is conclave. The symbol speaks to maturity and to the pinnacle of a cycle. Time for passing of the best of whatever will be of value to the next generation. The image of a grand dame at tea depicts one of the oldest traditions of society, or gathering of those elders, custodians of the most valuable assets of a group, for the purpose of discussing what shall be done with them and how to best preserve them. In simple terms, the image describes a conclave. The emphasis here is on culture, dignity, formality, custom, and propriety. It is a time for careful deliberation, thoughtful reflection, practical projection of the future needs. At its highest, the symbol represents conscientiousness, admiration of property and affairs, of group, and capacity for using community resources to the greatest social advantage. Watch for feelings of entitlement, the use of special privilege to achieve selfish ends. The accent is on passing the torch. Meetings and discussions are likely to be the center on choosing successors or transferring assets of some kind. Your greatest advantage lies in thinking carefully and deliberately. Be sure to gather all the facts and get input from others before you make an important decision. Guard against doing anything that could result in being accused of self-dealing or using your position to obtain special privileges. Avoid conflicts and interests that could leave you open to criticism. Tradition, formality, privilege, maturity, meeting, discussion, all that fun stuff. Need I remind you guys that when Mercury went direct, okay, it was at 8 degrees. Go back a little bit. So this is going to be right before the opposition. And if I remember correctly, 8 degrees of Virgo, it was exactly. Learning how to do it, finding the way to be a teacher, putting your time, reaching your goal, personal distinction. There was some other, now I don't even remember which one it was. Admit your mistakes and correct them. So Virgo 8, first dancing instruction, learning how to do it. Your greatest advantage lies in finding the right teacher and putting forth your time and effort. Admit your mistakes. Guard against giving up too soon. There was another, and I don't remember which one it was, but there was another Sabian symbol that was basically about like not asserting your rights or privileges over other people. And forgive me, but I'm not going to go through the book. Maybe it was Jupiter. But it's reminiscent of this opposition degree, right? So when I think about this 27, I think about how it's basically talking about groups of elders coming together and talking about how they're going to essentially pass on the torch. Part of that comes up in some of the things that I've been seeing today, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. This can be about really connecting to elders and like working with elders and talking to them about how to best preserve things for future generations, right? So I know that can kind of be used against some of us right now. There's definitely a lot of talking about making sacrifices for the greater good and what we need to do for future generations. So I don't agree with all of them, but definitely this can be a positive thing, especially when we're connecting with people who have had a lot more life experience than us and have the capabilities of being able to lead groups of people by example. So I wonder if this is about taking note of some of these groups that are coming together and having these discussions. Okay, so Mercury's direct in Virgo, or at least it's about to be the time that this particular opposition is going to be setting up. And so I think that that's also somehow connected to some kind of news coming out about, well, you know, we're finally going to come out with what's, you know, changing or what news needs to come out. And like, you know, we're passing this on to like another group. But kind of circling back to what I said about, you know, who's in charge anyway, this is a time where very easily we can get confused and we can give our power away. Or if we're getting scared, we're getting concerned, we're getting worried, there can definitely be a sense of being like, okay, we're just gonna kind of pass the baton to the next person who may potentially know better, and like, you know, I'm overwhelmed or I'm scared, like you do it. In the midst of this opposition, we're also seeing a building trine to Pluto, which on one hand, I think on a collective level, on a personal level, it's empowering. There's something empowering about overcoming fear. There's something empowering about going, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to figure out a solution, and I'm not going to allow myself to get overwhelmed or get persuaded to do, you know, something else. I'm not going to get distracted, right? I'm not just going to zone out. I'm going to focus on change and transformation, even if it's painful, if it requires a lot of work, even if it's scary. Pluto. So, like I said, this is like the bizarro world of some of the things that I was reading about this week, but I was like, so many of these things are connected to the Sun-Neptune opposition. I just have to share it with you guys. And once again, I don't know if I want to laugh or if I want to cry as I read some of these. And I'm going to try to string it together and how it has a lot of connections with authority and leaders and lack of leadership, and where it's leaving a lot of people feeling overwhelmed or potentially disempowered. But Neptune is about what's going on behind the scenes, what we're not seeing. Slowly, I kind of find these videos becoming more like a news broadcast, but I think it's really important to be able to tie the bigger picture together for everybody collectively to realize what the cosmos are actually showing us, especially in a time where there's so many damn planets in Pisces. Both of these planets are retrograde. Things don't feel very clear. And perhaps, I have faith, I'm optimistic that some of these things might make bigger headlines. But I'm pretty confident that a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking to you guys about today, you're not going to find on the mainstream news networks. Obviously, don't take my word for it. Go and do your research. Go and look into it. This week, the Fifth Circuit Court in the U.S. Ruled that Biden's White House, the FBI, CDC, and the Surgeon General violated Americans' First Amendment core free speech rights by colluding with big tech to censor health information. And that was per the court. It is being released. No coincidence. They are actually challenging that, which I think is like super bizarre. But it made me think of the Sun-Neptune opposition, where people are supposed to be protecting and providing and guiding and being of service, right? Because after all, these civil servants work for the people. There is actually action, Sun, revolving around trying to hide and conceal some of this information. You're not going to be hearing this stuff, I think, on the mainstream news. But, the FBI, that doesn't surprise me. The CDC, that doesn't surprise me. But the fact that the courts are saying this, I think, is a huge victory for people who are really standing up and trying to preserve and protect the freedom of speech here in the United States. Still following that story, waiting to see what happens if they're going to, if they're going to be challenging that. Just in the last couple days, there has been a Biden impeachment inquiry. The White House begins to issue letters to media and news agencies directing them to scrutinize the impeachment inquiry. Now, some might say that's an abuse of power, maybe, but I think that this is also an intentional way of softening perhaps the blow, right? Neptune, of what people might collectively be starting to kind of put together and kind of realize in terms of what has actually gone on behind the scenes. But technically, since this ruling, they can't flat out come out and tell people what to share and what to not share. They can make recommendations, they can make suggestions, but because that has been upheld through the courts, the White House cannot do that. So they can issue that and potentially try to see if they can persuade or they can affect the media or what you see on screens, Neptune. But we'll see. Technically, they can't. We heard from the CDC, at least here in the United States. We've heard about this in Canada as well in this last week, that the new COVID shots are going to be, rolled out. We're going to see that later potentially this week. We don't know quite yet, but within days, they said, of when they get clearance. And I did a little bit of digging. I don't want to get in trouble on the YouTubes, but I will leave it at this. One, there is no clinical trials. They admit this, they talk about this, that there's no clinical trials and that some of the trials are based off of previous shots. So go do your homework. But what was most concerning to me is that the new shots fall under something called the PrEP Act, which essentially is an umbrella coverage clause and apparently only requires voluntary participation, aka they cannot be mandated and they are covered at that time as long as they are not mandated. So they can make recommendations, they can make suggestions, but they cannot be mandated. And as long as you voluntarily participate in taking this medication, they are covered under the PrEP app, which is going to be rolling out when the vaccines come out, and it's going to be until the end of 2024, which basically means providers. It also means that, the pharmaceutical companies are not on the hook for any effects that come from that potentially. We don't know because they have yet to come out. But please do your research, especially knowing that that's going to be coming out. It's going to be in play for another year. And that includes all of the ages as well. It doesn't matter who it is. So they're recommending this from anybody who's 6 months old and older, okay? But I mean, why is this coming up? I mean, it's like, why is the government, making decisions about some of this stuff? Well, money might be tied to it. That's part of it. I mean, if you start to kind of go and do your research and you figure out how all of this stuff works, it's like very bizarre. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in a second, how the money is connected to this. And so you're going to start seeing more leaders, Sun in Virgo, trine Pluto, talking to people about their responsibility for protection and barriers. You know, Saturn, Capricorn energies can be about barriers to stay protected. So you're going to see more of this kind of ramping up, but also pushing potential fear narratives on people regarding illness and sickness. That's Neptune. And yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about that. So just do your research. But more on that, also this week, a CIA whistleblower tells Congress that the agency offered officials who investigated COVID origins a significant monetary incentive, aka they offered to pay them, to change their position from COVID originated from a lab to they're unable to determine the origins. So the backstory is apparently there was a group of people who were involved with this research in terms of like the origins of COVID. There was 7 different scientists that were involved. Of the 7, the CIA apparently, this is coming out in Congress, went and proposed and said, you know, say you don't know where it came from and maybe we will, you know, incentivize you and we will pay you. Those names have not been released. Of the 7, 6 of them basically changed their opinion on the origins of where it came from. It has been determined that they took payment. There was only 1 that refused to take payment and refused to reverse their stance on their belief of origins. Why is the CIA trying to pay scientists to potentially keep quiet about origins of a potential virus? And the CIA is connected to the administration. It doesn't matter who's president, they're connected to the federal government. And what incentive do they have in all of this? Kind of makes me wonder, right? More things that kind of go on behind the scenes that we would never necessarily know about, but you gotta love Mercury getting ready to go direct and coming out with some of this information. Our good friend Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum this week encourages world leaders to turn over their powers to the WEF. I almost said Charles Schwab, excuse me. Klaus Schwab issued the chilling message during an address at this week's Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit. According to Schwab, governments must embrace the WEF's agenda if they want to survive the dystopian future unfolding before our very eyes. During his speech, Schwab outlined his plans for the merging state of corporate power. Speaking at the summit, he ordered government leaders to cooperate with the WEF or face losing power and influence in the new global landscape. Losing power, Sun in opposition to Neptune. He continued claiming that the fusion of the WEF and state would see a shift in the era of capitalism to the era of talentism. Schwab boasted under his system, corporate elites would craft policies for sovereign countries to ensure the innovation becomes a key competitive factor. Giving away your power, passing the torch, groups of people meeting and talking about whether or not situations have gotten out of control, right? Just, you know, don't worry about it. Just keep quiet, right? Just give your power away. And for me, that's really where I got the, you know, this is the way the world ends, not with a bang, but with a whimper. Some of the things that are going on right now are things that could potentially really significantly change the world, but you're not hearing about it. It's not something that's being talked in the mainstream news. It's not something that is going to be broadcasted. It's things that are happening in the shadows. Neptune. Okay, so this one's like kind of funny. So sorry if this one makes me laugh. So this one was also kind of bizarro. Aliens, on the topic of aliens, right, which is very, very Neptune, but also, you know, we're seeing some trines to Uranus. Alleged mummified alien corpses displayed at Mexico's Congress today, suspected to be 1,000 years old. So UFO enthusiasts celebrated a remarkable event today in Mexico City's Congress, led by journalists and UFO specialists. The officials gathered, unveiling 2 alleged non-human corpses. These mummified UFO remains were retrieved from Peru and are believed to be thousands of years old and were showcased in windowed boxes. Scientists corroborated on this event, speaking under oath, presenting their findings to the Mexican government and members of U.S. officials. They emphasized that the non-human species had recently undergone examination at the University of Mexico, yielding DNA evidence through radiocarbon dating. They say under oath, these specimens are not part of our terrestrial evolution. They aren't beings that were found after UFO wreckage. They were found in an algae mine that were later fossilized. Whoa. So talk about things that are being uncovered, things that could be ancient, Sun trine Pluto, right? But things that might be otherworldly, Neptune, that are being exposed or shown to leaders. I knew, and I had to pull it up, but aliens were definitely on my 2023 bingo card for sure. I've been saying that all year. I'm like, we've only got a couple months left. Where is it? And I was cracking up laughing just like reading this because it's ridiculous. Like you have to go and just do a Google search or hop on Twitter and go watch some of these videos. This is real. They really did this. And it's so strange to me because we've seen some stuff that's been kind of coming out that's been declassified in regards to UFOs here in the United States, but nothing quite like this. And it's wild to me that, you know, in the next couple days, we're going to be seeing some kind of big statement that's coming out of NASA. It's kind of secretive. We don't know what it is. But it's almost like, yeah, Mexico beat us to it. Like right when the United States were starting to do their soft launch, like Mexico was like, hold my beer, and literally did a live unboxing video of like two mummy aliens. Like, what the fuck? Okay, so obviously super strange, but go check it out for yourself. Bill Gates to invest millions into chopping down trees in the name of climate change. Okay, so trees, 26. And, you know, billionaires, millionaires, Pluto, the trine, and their diabolical plans behind the scenes. So he's suggesting that this is the name of climate change. Obviously, if there's a terrible dystopian idea out there, it seems like Bill Gates is behind it time and time again. The latest insanity in which he's investing is a project to chop down trees and bury millions of acres worth of trees. Supposedly, this will help save Earth from climate change in hopes to limit CO2. Not hearing a lot about this, but definitely it is real. This is not fiction. There is talk about this. And also some other stuff I saw kind of floating around the internet where there is like CO2 filters that they're like big machines that they're talking about putting out that's going to be like sucking it from the atmosphere. But I remember specifically in like middle school science and like bio class, like the importance of CO2 in the environment and why we need that, and the fact that it's a large part of our ecosystem. So I don't understand. I'm so like dumbfounded how there's been this huge movement towards saving the planet, preserving the planet, having more protected land, but we see tons of arsonists that are burning down things, whether it's in Greece or Canada or other parts of the world in recent news, but they want to protect the planet. And now we've got people who have been pushing to also restrict our freedoms to now say, well, let's go and chop these trees down and let's bury them. That makes no sense to me. Earlier today, a group of big tech names like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and Zuckerberg meet with Congress to discuss AI technology and the future of AI, and being able to talk to Congress about the importance of kind of getting ahead of some of this stuff and protecting and creating some limits or maybe some guards in regards to the use of AI. I caught a little bit of the interview on the, it was like live news or something while I was in the car, but it was really interesting to hear Elon come out and basically say, like, we need to get ahead of this and we need to be proactive in making sure that we are creating these laws before things get out and then it kind of is like a beast of its own because of the impact that it might have on humanity. Now, why am I bringing that up in regards to Neptune? Well, part of this is more Mercury's connection to the sun, and the fact that Mercury has been retrograding before it starts to come into a trine with Uranus. Definitely going to hear a lot more about job news. We're going to hear a lot more about innovations in technology and how that may be impacting all of us physically, our bodies, as well as the marketplace. And AI, I think, it's a train that we can't really stop at this point. You know, do we have the opportunity and the ability to kind of help guide it and use it in a way that can be productive? I have hopes for that. But when I say it's a train we can't stop, this is an incoming Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that is going to be taking place next spring, where we're going to see an explosion, I think, of more of this technology and the impact that it has on all of us, physically and financially. I saw a really interesting video the other day that really kind of moved me, and it was like a group of scientists that were talking about how they took mice or like rats, and they put them in a cage by themselves. And they gave them obviously like a water feeder, and they started introducing 2 water feeders, one that was just plain water and one that was like laced with like I don't know if it was like cocaine or it was like heroin. It was laced with like an addictive like drug, to see how the mice or the rats would respond and which feeder they would go to. And keep in mind, they were alone. And what they were talking about in the video is that the mice would go time and time again to the water bottle that was laced with narcotics, to the point where they were just drinking it obsessively until the mice would overdose. And then they did a separate experiment where they took a much larger kind of space, and they included little wheels and, you know, little mazes for them to play with, and like lots of cheese and toys, and they put other mice in there. And then they put 2 water bottles, one that was plain water and one that was laced with the narcotics. And what they observed is that the mice that were in a social environment where they had a support system, they had friends, they had activities, there was like lots of stimulus, there was like food and things to do. It was almost like not at all that the mice opted to go and use the water that had like drugs in it. If they did, which was very rare apparently, it was very minor, and they weren't overdosing, and they weren't going to it regularly, and most of the time they were opting to have plain regular water. Why am I bringing that up? Well, I mean, you know, loneliness is a huge issue right now and collectively. The last couple of years of people being alone, I think of people getting accustomed to being alone, the mental health crisis that we have all over the world as a result of, you know, the world being shut down, but also I think us just becoming less and less engaged, and where we are much more likely to fade away, have emotional issues, mental health issues, physical health issues, lack of faith, when we are by ourselves, isolated, and we don't have community. So one of the things that we see with the Sun in opposition to Neptune can be a sense of being like, where do I belong? Why am I alone? Why am I being put on this, you know, island, you know, to kind of be kept with my own thoughts and isolated from other people? So I've seen this with clients. You know, I've seen clients go through the Neptune Sun opposition. A lot of Virgos the last couple of years, obviously, because Neptune's been in opposition by that sign. And the reoccurring theme that I hear from them is that, you know, I could be in a room full of people, but I still feel alone. And the key here, I think, with the Sun in opposition to Neptune is, number one, we can reach out, we can ask for help, we can ask for assistance. If we're feeling like we're losing faith, or we're feeling like we're beside ourselves, you know, what can we do? How can we reach out to other people and let them know that we need help and that we need assistance? So much of the Sun opposed Neptune can be about reaching out and being of service to people in need, who are homeless, who are ill. We're going to hear a lot more about immigration and whether or not, you know, we need to be more involved in that process of helping those who are, you know, seeking refuge or seeking safety or security. Definitely homelessness comes up a lot with Neptune, but also addiction. And, you know, the addictions that we have to everything. It's not just drugs. It can be, you know, money and food or sex. And where sometimes we can get so fixated in feeling lost that we start to kind of, you know, put up these walls where we're, you know, isolating ourselves from the world. So it's almost like, in a way, I'm looking at this transit wondering, are people going to look around and realize that it's not normal? You know, it's not normal to live in a society where we're being told to have barriers, where we're being told to have masks, to stay in your home, don't go out, don't interact with people, nothing is safe, right? You can't breathe the same air, you can't be around your neighbors, don't talk about things. And where this week, you're going to start to see some of that rhetoric come back. And I have some concerns for people who might be struggling mentally or emotionally with some of this. And I hope that you guys are speaking out and you're not feeling alone. And like I said, thinking about that video that was quite moving about the mice, that the ones that had community, that had stimulation, that had fun, that had purpose, that had other people, were less likely to overdose and less likely to feel fixated on drugs. In some other news, we saw just recently, yesterday, apparently Ukraine launches a sudden water attack on a Russian port. I believe, where was this? I believe this was, oh my goodness, I don't have it in my notes, but I'll come back. I'll put a link for you guys. But apparently, like, there were missiles that they got from the UK, supposedly, that were launched in an attack at a Russian seaport. And yeah, they took out a rather large, I think it was like a ship or like a submarine. So why is this coming up? Well, the sun can be talking about action. It can be talking about strategy, right? In Virgo, the opposition to Neptune is where they're applying their force, their determination towards anything in regards to the ocean or the sea. And 26 degrees can be physical structure. So apparently it was a pretty big attack that took place. And then we hear more about President, I guess, Putin working side by side in talks with Kim Jong-un and becoming friendly, which obviously is never something that we want to hear about. But I've been listening to various people, especially like people who have a significant background in military, who have been talking about strategy and what's been going on with the war and how, Ukraine is apparently, because I don't know, we haven't seen the war here in the United States. We're not seeing it. It's not like what we saw in Afghanistan. Not that war was any more real, but yeah, apparently they're saying that Putin is like playing the long game and that he knows that Ukraine is supposedly depleting their resources and that he doesn't want war. He doesn't want to push this any further and get involved with NATO. So I think that the sun in opposition to Neptune can also be very strategic and kind of being like, okay, I'm going to take a step back. I don't want war. I want peace. And I'm going to see what might actually kind of dissolve and fall away on its own without having to kind of get involved and create any particular conflict. Found that interesting. This week, up to 2,000 feared drowned after Libyan city hit by catastrophic storm floods. Local leaders in eastern city of Derna say thousands are missing after 2 aging dams collapsed overnight. Well, so we've got Neptune, which deals with water, 26 degrees, which is structures. And we've got the sun in opposition to Neptune, which is giving way to the water, right? Other reasons for this, I think a lot of it could be the retrograde Jupiter-Uranus foundations kind of giving out, kind of eroding or falling apart, or there being shock waves. But still, the sun in opposition to Neptune can have an opposite effect where, especially Neptune being in its ruling sign, really pushing back on the sun and being like this thing flowing over. People going missing, people drowning, unfortunately, with Neptune. And something that kept coming up for me, over and over is like, where's the money? 26 degrees, are we going to hear about some significant heist? Is there going to be some kind of money that's going to go missing? Are people going to start to question holes in a budget or, something that was like over-calculated? One of my predictions that unfortunately came true again over this last week, a lot of you guys sent me the links, was MGM casinos got hammered. There was a cyber attack. A lot of the casinos on the Strip, apparently the ATMs were down. People were locked out of their rooms. They were not able to have access to anything like ATMs, actual physical machines, digital machines. They were all down. And apparently it was like across the board in various states where MGM has stuff. Now, why is this coming up? A lot of this has been the Venus square Jupiter, Venus square Uranus. We're in the back end. Remember I said Venus in Leo deals with casinos and Jupiter Uranus deals with money. So last week it was the big crypto casino scam. This one, it was the real casinos. Let this be a message to all of you guys who are like, I don't care, like digital currency is fine, like who cares, I use a debit card. If this can happen in Vegas on the Strip and hit like 8 different casinos that can cause that kind of chaos, what's gonna happen if we go to an all digital like type of system? Like what's gonna happen if we potentially have CBDCs? Like we just completely rely on a digital world? Have we not, seen enough of some of these like problems throughout these particular squares? I was reading another article this week about like some senator or something who was like all about like electric vehicles, and they were really pushing for EVs, and apparently they were going to be driving an EV through several states as like a promotion for, oh, this is great, this is what we're going to be doing. And I think it was like the congresswoman or the senator was in the car driving from one state to another, and she had like another car where she had like assistants and aides that were ahead of her. And the biggest issue that they had with this is that there were not enough charging stations to get from point A to point B. So they were constantly finding that they were like having to kind of move all over the place and go all over the map to find charging stations, and it was stressful, and they had to have the aides go ahead of them in a regular vehicle, a gas-powered vehicle, to go ahead and help guide them to finding the charging stations, and then park and reserve spots at the charging stations, so that way they had a place to charge within each of the stations. Completely like threw the whole thing like off track, and like really kind of showed you some of the holes in some of this incentive that there is to be able to really push EV vehicles. And it's no different than some of the stuff that they're pushing with some of this environmental stuff. We don't have the resources. We don't have the physical capabilities of being able to facilitate some of this stuff, yet there's a push for it. So I guess my takeaway from this is, you know, with Sun in opposition to Neptune, yes, you can feel lost at sea, right? And that's it. This will last for a couple days. But I think a lot of this is about not feeling into a state of hopelessness, not feeling into a state of being overwhelmed and stunned and not doing anything. Sometimes taking a step back and actually reevaluating things and taking a breath before moving forward into the abyss is what we need, so we can kind of strategize and figure out where we're going. Something I keep, you know, that keeps coming up for me is like, no one is going to come and save us. No one is going to come and save us. There isn't going to be some vigilante, you know, presidential candidate that's going to jump in and save us. There is not going to be this huge billionaire that's going to jump in and save us. There is not going to be a Superman. Like, we have to look at the situation and go, we have to save ourselves, and be willing to, Virgo, kind of roll up our sleeves and go, okay, we need to focus on creating change, because we're going to fall into two camps this week. One is the Sun in opposition to Neptune, overwhelmed, I can't do it, this is scary, I don't know how to handle it, this is too much. Or the Sun trine Pluto, which means anything is possible, we can make change as long as we're actually focusing on long-term shifts, right? Empower and also control. Mercury's getting ready to come back into a trine with Jupiter here. So this is going to be the third trine we're going to see in this next week. You're going to see this after the Sun in opposition to Neptune. And something that comes up for me a lot with Mercury is like, did you know, right? I have Sun conjunct Mercury, so I find that I'm always telling people, did you know this? Did you know that? And a lot of us probably don't know about some of these events that are going on in the world. You know, we're kind of blindsided with just life and also just general kind of day in and day out news. So there can be a sense of feeling like overwhelmed and not being sure, kind of beating us down to a point where we're just like, we'll just accept anything. Like, that's fine. Like, it's just too much. I don't want to deal with it. But with Mercury coming into a trine with Jupiter, a lot of this is going to be about laws, okay? It's going to be about financial laws. It's going to be about work laws, health laws, things revolving around, you know, our capabilities of getting things done and being productive. So I wanted to kind of wrap this up by giving you guys some information about laws. And there is a whole slew of words that, you know, Mercury words can get very confusing when it comes to what they actually mean. So here's some things that you guys might be hearing over this next couple of weeks or months. I want to remind you that some of the changes that might be coming, especially with leadership, I think we're going to be hearing more from leaders that are basically asking us to make sacrifices, but they may not be the ones making sacrifices themselves. So watch for when you hear these particular words like mandatory, that's not a law. Required, that's not a law. Mandated, that's not a law. Requested, also not a law. An order, not a law. Ordinance, not a law. Decree, also not a law. And compulsory, not a law. None of these words are laws. They sound kind of scary. Mandatory, you're mandated to do this. You're required to do this. Requested, this is an order. None of these words are laws. So I want you guys to know that. Obviously, this is coming from me being an American, so obviously I like to stir the pot a little bit. But these are not laws. So if you're hearing these things in the midst of this opposition, don't get overwhelmed. Don't get scared. Get informed. Ask questions. Mercury trine Jupiter is essentially saying, if you ask questions, you'll be able to get to the heart of the matter. You'll be enlightened. You'll have awareness. You'll have more freedom. And I want you guys to be keeping your ears open for these because you're definitely going to be hearing them over the next couple of weeks. All right, so let's take you guys to the 12 signs because I know that that's what you guys have been waiting for. I do think, I could be wrong, but I do think I touched on this during the horoscopes, but why not? We'll do it again. And I want to talk to you guys about where the Sun opposition will be taking place for each and every one of the 12 signs. As a reminder, I'm a Western astrologer, okay? This is going to be for the whole sign method. Please listen to your rising sign. That's going to give you the most accurate information as to where the Sun-Neptune opposition is playing out for you personally. You can also listen to your Sun or your Moon, but your rising sign is going to be the most accurate in terms of where you're experiencing this opposition. 25, 26, 27 degrees of Virgo and Pisces. You're going to be feeling this the most. Leo, this will impact you as well because the Sun rules your chart. But, 24, 25, 26 degrees of the mutable signs. So Pisces, Sag, Virgo, and Gemini, you guys are going to be feeling that square pretty strongly, okay? Okay. So let's get on with it. So this is going to be for Aries and Aries rising. What's going on, Aries? You are going to be experiencing the Sun in Virgo coming into an opposition with Neptune, and that is going to be in your natal 6th and 12th house. So with the transit Sun coming into an opposition with Neptune in your 12th house, you want to watch your daily routines and your work because these two areas could be affected by a desire for escapism or spiritual pursuits. Also, watch out for health issues relating to stress. Stress from what? Well, the Sun rules your 5th house. Stress from lovers, from creative projects, feeling a little like you've overdone something in terms of maybe having fun or partying. There could also be some stress coming up in regards to younger people, children. That can be part of that because the Sun rules your natal 5th house, okay? So let's see what tarot card comes up for you guys with this opposition. Oof, 8 of Cups. It's a lot of like what you're walking away from, what you're leaving behind. Maybe there is a sense of feeling overwhelmed because you got to give something up. You have a Mercury retrograde in your 6th house, so it's like that you have to make a health change, a daily routine change, a work change. There's something shifting and you're like, I know that this is not something that I necessarily want to do, but I need to do it. So much about, the 7th house, it's like where the Sun sets. There may be this awareness that certain things are coming to some kind of natural completion, right? That you have to tell somebody you're over something, or that you're having to kind of let them go, or that something isn't working, or that you need to make a change in regards to your relationship with another person. 8 of Cups is about walking away, but as a reminder, the next card that comes up for you is the 9 of Cups, which means like you're getting what you want out of the situation. You let something go, but you end up getting what you want, right? Good luck with that, Aries. Let me know how it goes. All right, so we got Taurus and Taurus rising. You're going to be experiencing the Sun going through Virgo in an opposition to Neptune in your 11th house. Well, the good news is Virgo is a sister sign. So especially if you're a later degree Taurus rising, at least the Sun is in a trine to your ascendant. At least the Sun is also trining Uranus, so it does kind of keep things lively. As the Sun goes through the 5th house and it opposes Neptune, there is a real focus on romantic and creative pursuits. It is possible that you are idealizing them in some way, and friendships and group activities may not necessarily live up to your expectations. Now, in particular, the Sun rules your 4th house of home, creativity, and family, and it opposes Neptune. So I get this feeling that you may be really focused on a creative project at home that's keeping you from friends. You might be really focused on spending time with children, or maybe even like working on a hobby or on a project, and you're really dedicated to this right now, and you might feel like, okay, I need to be really focusing on this because the Sun's in the 5th house and it's strong there. It can be also about a romantic relationship, and that is something that you're super invested in right now. And maybe you're feeling like it's kind of keeping you away from friends, from, you know, socializing from other people. Some of you guys might be like, sorry, I can't go to the party. You know, I got to stay home. I got to take care of my kid. Or, you know, you've promised your significant other that you're having a date night, and you kind of have to kind of get a pass on having a hangout with your boys. That could definitely be coming up here as well. The card that I got for you is the Magician, which I really like. I think a lot of this is finding ways to stay inspired, to be childlike, to be creative. I think of the trines to Uranus in your first house, and it's about being an innovator, especially when it comes to self-expression, your talent and creativity. It may be a time when you're kind of saying, you know what, I've given a lot to a group of people that I've been working with, or I've given a lot to another cause, like now I need to be doing something for me. And so you're finding ways to kind of like rework who you are, like reworking something about your identity and like showing the world what you've got. So this is very much about manifestations. And so if you're working on a creative project, or if there's something kind of brewing in regards to your love life, you're feeling really inspired with that right now, and you're wanting to like make things happen, right? Good luck, Taurus. We got Gemini and Gemini rising. What's going on, guys? I hope you're doing well. We are going to be seeing the sun in Virgo coming into an opposition with Neptune in your natal 10th house. All right, so the sun rules your third house of communication, vehicles. It can also be about siblings. It can also be about movement, documents, gadgets. With the sun in the fourth house in opposition to transit Neptune in the 10th, especially if you're a Gemini rising, that's like 24, 25, 26 degrees. You're really feeling this pinch, so be mindful of that. To me, it seems like your family life and your career goals are experiencing a little bit of a clash. Something can feel muddled in regards to one or the other. Balancing professional and personal life can be very challenging right now. I think it's a lot of, you know, feeling like, okay, there's a lot on my plate when it comes to my home life, or when it comes to my family or a living situation. And having a difficult time being able to find that balance with the opposition to Neptune. Perhaps, you know, the way out is communication. Communication is king right now, Gemini. If you're finding ways to be actively communicating clearly with the people at work and also with people at home, you're able to kind of get the point across and find ways to be able to find a balance between the two. It can quite literally be communicating with younger people, because the sun is in your fourth house, but it rules Leo. So I'm wondering, like, how are you talking to younger people and kind of letting them know that, you know, you've got things that are going on that you need to be more so focused on. Can be kids, can be roommates, but it can also be siblings as well. And it's normal to feel a little bombarded with home and private life things right now, and kind of questioning whether or not it's taking away from what you're doing out in the world. Ooh, I get the Empress. So for some of you guys, especially those of you guys who it might be about taking care of a mother figure or a sister or a woman in your life. It can be you if you're identifying as being like, I'm a mom, I'm swamped, I've got so much stuff going on. And it's happening within the 4th and the 10th house, which is like kind of like the parental access. So is there a mother that's in need? Are you the mom that's in need, right? And what are you nurturing and taking care of? Sometimes the Empress comes up and it's talking about being your own parent and like needing to know when you need to really do the emotional work, take better care of yourself, really making sure that you're getting all like the snuggles and the security and the comfort that you're needing at home, okay? Good luck. We got Cancer and Cancer rising. What's going on, guys? You're experiencing the transit sun in Virgo, moving through your 3rd house, and it's coming into an opposition with Neptune that is in your 9th house. Interesting stuff, especially if you're like a later degree Cancer. You know, you're going to have some sextiles from your 3rd house sun transit and also trines from the 9th house Neptune transit. So can be easier for you to deal with, for sure. The sun rules your 2nd house of, you know, resources, possessions. It can also be about money, self-esteem. Now, when you have the sun in the third in opposition to Neptune in the ninth, these are very kind of like mental communication, education houses. So it's possible that your thoughts and communication can be influenced by spiritual or philosophical ideas. Be mindful of potential misunderstandings in your beliefs or in communication or connections with other people. Blind spots in what you think you know and what you actually know, or what you thought you believed in and what you're just finding out. There can be some issues with documents, some blind spots with transportation, or also with travel. And I've definitely seen a number of you guys that are like, oh my God, I lost my car keys, or I've misplaced my passport, or, you know, I lost a really important document and I need it. And like now you're having to pay to like kind of express mail something. And a lot of back and forth that can also involve mail and post, or talking to teachers about, you know, getting classes that, you know, are cleared, or being able to, you know, speak with a counselor or somebody who can kind of guide you, and there being some kind of like muddled conversations and like missed connections that can kind of come up here as well. My advice is to really work with either the trine or the sextile. And what's helpful is that you have Mercury in its ruling sign. So much of the Mercury retrograde is about being like, oh, you know, this was that thing that was missing, that paper that I was missing. Now I found it. And so you can kind of work your way out of the opposition by going, I've got it in hand. You know, we've got a solution. All right, let's take a look. Let's see. Saw somebody else who their car got stolen with this opposition. So hopefully that's not the case for you. Six of Cups. So this is interesting. This is about remembering, reconnecting, reevaluating, thinking back on happier, sweeter times. I wonder if part of this also stems from the fact that, you know, the sun is like talking about how to kind of get more so in touch with, you know, your younger self, maybe. Leo, right? It can be about building on self-esteem and talking kindly to yourself and talking about the good times and the things that you love and being appreciative and grateful for what you have. Six of Cups is about something coming back to you, though. So it's interesting that this card comes back in connection to this, because it is kind of saying something that's been missing can be returned. Let me know, do you end up recovering something that's been missing? I could definitely see some people who have some like hard drive issues, or like, you know, something that like maybe goes missing on a computer and then it's like found or it's fixed for sure. Okay, so we've got Leo and Leo rising. What's up, Leo? You're experiencing the sun in Virgo in your second house in opposition to Neptune in your eighth. Okay, so obviously sun transits are important. You're ruled by the sun. So the sun in the second house in opposition to Neptune is bringing a highlight to financial matters. The thing to take into consideration here is that financial matters may be unclear. The day before, the day of, the day after, be very careful with financial transactions because things are unclear and you might be more prone to deception. You might need to be cautious with shared resources and investments during this period. Likely this is you. Okay, so when the sun's in the second house, it's what you possess. And the opposition to Neptune is somebody going, I don't have the funds, you know, I don't have enough money, I don't have support, you know, or I lost it, can you send me some more? So be very careful. I've seen some of you guys that have been going back and forth with insurance matters. I've seen some of you guys going back and forth with like relationships with people who are just kind of like bums and like they just can't get it together, and you're giving, and you're like, where is the money going? Or why didn't the claim get filed? Or, you know, like, why am I not being refunded for this thing? So asking questions is important. Trying not to be too overly generous. I know Saturn's in your eighth house right now, so is Neptune. So there might be a sense of not getting as much support from somebody else. So there can be a sense of really needing to tap in and kind of go like, you know, am I giving somebody too much assistance? Or, you know, does somebody need to be chipping in more? And like, where are they telling me that they can't cover something? When in reality, you're realizing like you may be being a little bit too generous. That is possible. Be careful with buying, selling things, investing things, or somebody who's trying to sell you on a really good potential purchase or investment. I would steer clear of that with some of these transits. Quite honestly, you know, Venus is direct now in your sign, but it's still going to come into a square with Uranus. And for some of you guys, it can be also like a back and forth that you're doing, questioning whether or not you need to charge clients more, or questioning whether or not a joint partnership is really working, and if like somebody's like pulling their weight compared to the work that you're doing, and if you feel like you're being fairly paid. High Priestess. So you really have to kind of tap in here and ask yourself, like, you know, do I need to be more aware of something? Do I need to be more aware of a potential scam? What is my gut telling me? What is my intuition telling me, right? When this card comes up for me, it's like kind of like the catch-all card. That's like, whatever you're feeling right now, whatever this hunch that you have to listen to it, because it may likely play out. There's still likely going to be, as Venus and Uranus square, this realization that you don't have to keep giving just for the sake of kind of looking like you're being a team player. There may be a sense of you feeling like you need to kind of really break away from something or someone in the weeks ahead and like do what's best for you. So if you're already starting to get that hunch or that feeling, or if you feel, hey, I feel like this person really needs my help, I feel like it's going towards a good cause, you have to be able to check in with yourself and make that decision. Good luck. We got Virgo and Virgo rising. This is an interesting one for you, Virgo. So we've got the sun in your sign. It's coming into an opposition with Neptune in your 7th house of Pisces. So while the sun's in the 1st house in opposition to Neptune in your 7th, for me, I think this is an interesting one because, first of all, it's your season. It's the tail end of it, but it's your season. That sun in your 1st house is very strong with Mercury there as well. There is a sense of really figuring out who you are and saying what you have to say and like owning it. But I think your sense of self may be challenged by, you know, another person. You might be idealizing another person or confusing interactions with others. And I would be very cautious about projecting your ideas onto partners. Now, Saturn's going through your 7th house, so there can be a sense of a slowing down of relationships or karmic relationship matters, or feeling like people are keeping you at arm's length. And you've got the sun, which rules your 12th house, sitting in your 1st house. So quite frankly, there can be things coming out where you might feel like you're coming out of, you know, your kind of cocoon and you're kind of reaching back out there to people, maybe not feeling like you're getting the responses that you want. It can also mean that there are some self-undoing habits, because the sun rules the 12th house, that are coming out where your bad habits or your influence can be affecting other people. It can mean that you're idealizing other people and feeling like, you know, there's a sense of putting them on a pedestal. And it's about taking off those rose-colored glasses and seeing other people for what they really are. And you may be feeling a little frustrated, not be feeling like you're getting the communication that you need from other people. Something that's really working in your favor is this new moon that we just had, and like, you know, the trines to Uranus, and the fact that it gives you the opportunity to kind of change the status quo and be a little bit more adventurous and like open-minded, and find ways to kind of move with some of these changes if you feel like there is a sense of feeling blocked in terms of your relationships with other people. Wow. So being the boss, right? I mean, like, you know, 1st house can be this very Aries energy. Sun moving through there is wonderful. Mars in your 2nd house, where this is like a lot of like taking action when it comes to your self-esteem. Mars will come into a conjunction there soon. So there's going to be a sense of coming to terms with what or who you're willing to cut off, or you're willing to cut ties with, or what you're willing to let go of. But, you know, the Emperor coming up can very much be about handling things, managing things, you know, taking action, being assertive, being in charge. This is also a card that comes up a lot with, you know, male figures, masculine figures, father figures as well. But I think this is about you feeling like you're the one calling the shots and not waiting for other people to give you a sense of direction, because I think right now there is like a lot of miscommunication or misunderstandings with other people. So you're kind of learning to kind of go your own way, right? Good luck, Virgo. We got Libra in Libra rising. You are experiencing the sun going through Virgo in your 12th house in opposition to Neptune in your 6th. So Libra, this is like the cosmic clearing out, right? You had a Mercury retrograde in your 12th house. The sun's getting ready to leave your 12th house. So there's been a lot of feeling kind of squirrely. When the sun is moving through your 12th house in opposition to Neptune in the 6th, your spiritual and introspective side may influence your work and your daily routines. You might be kind of feeling like you have intuitive hunches and hits about how to, you know, be able to make changes in your routine or when to get started on something. You want to be mindful of your potential for escapism and health issues. This can definitely come up. There can also be a natural kind of conclusion going on with friendships or goals. You have the sun, which rules your 11th house of friends, in the 12th house, and it's opposing Neptune. There can be a sense of like, you know, having lots of issues and changes with your sleeping schedule, which can impact your ability to feel well rested, capable, able to kind of get things done with Saturn and Neptune in your 6th house. Certainly, like, bad habits and bad behavior can lead to there being some health related issues and escapism type situations. And like a friendship might be going through like a physical health or like a mental health related issue, or there may be something going on where you're getting wind that somebody that you're working with is like delayed, or they're behind on a deadline, or there's something going on because they had some unexpected health related issue that could be taking place. And so there can be some stress or worry revolving around whether or not you're going to meet those deadlines. But just, you know, remember, mind, body, spirit, there's a balance here for both you as well as Aries. The card that I got for you is the Three of Cups, which is interesting. This is about celebrating, coming together, you know, reasons for, for celebration, you know, positive things. I'm wondering if the extended Venus retrograde in your 11th has been a lot of that. I wonder if the sun going into the 12th house is like perhaps maybe like the hangover that's coming from a really extensive kind of social season and kind of feeling like run down. And now like you're kind of like needing some space from other people. You may not see that more until Venus comes into a square with Uranus here in the next like week or two. But Three of Cups is basically celebrating. So you're celebrating something in some capacity, or maybe you're getting ready to tell other people about something that you've been kind of like working on behind the scenes. As a Libra rising, I've been dealing with this for like the last couple weeks, the retrograde and stuff. And for me, it's just been taking my time to meet all my deadlines and not making sure that I'm doing something all in the matter of like a week or two. It's been a slow, steady process to make sure that I'm meeting some of these deadlines like with ease. So I'm hoping that you're having some positive stuff from this. Good luck. Okay, so we've got now Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You are going to be experiencing the sun in Virgo coming into an opposition with Neptune in Pisces in your 5th house. If you happen to be a late degree Scorpio rising, 24, 25, 26 degrees, even 27 degrees-ish, you'll have a sextile, so it's helpful. So with the sun in the 11th in opposition to Neptune in the 5th, your social activities and friendships may not meet your idealized expectations. And a lot of that is because we see the sun in the 11th house of others, friends, and associations. And it's coming into an opposition with Neptune in your 5th house, where creative projects and love affairs might face challenges. So it's kind of the opposite of Taurus. There's like a lot of like, what's going on? How am I connecting with other people and socializing? And where that's almost kind of like taking precedent over your own happiness, your own creative projects, your own romantic relationships. There definitely can be a sense of, in a way, I'm not saying needing to prioritize, but considering what makes other people happy, and almost like you're making some sacrifice on a personal level because of what's going to make a friend happy, what's going to make a network of people happy, what's going to be the best for the team. And it may take away from your own, creative process. It might mean that you have to make some kind of sacrifice in regards to date night. It might mean that you're like, I really need a night out with my friends. I got to get a babysitter, and there is some space away from something or someone that you love, right? 5th house. But not as challenging as some of the other placements. I think what's really working in your favor is the sextile to your ascendant, which is encouraging change. I know that the eclipses are coming for you guys, and it's going to be both for you and Taurus in some tricky places. The 12th and the 6th house are really kind of indicating that there's a lot of relationship stuff that's getting cleared out right now. And perhaps some of you guys really do need some support and some togetherness with your friends to be able to better kind of navigate some of that stuff, right? So let's take a look. The card that you get is the Seven of Cups. Feeling confused, overwhelmed, not entirely too sure. If I had to pick a card of the Sun, Neptune, it would probably be this card, quite honestly. When I think about the Seven of Cups, it's getting lost in illusions, too many opportunities, too many options, not being sure. Seven of Cups can quite literally be about drinking. It can be about substances and indulging. It is possible that there is like a lot of togetherness with other people, and you know, maybe you're looking at other people's happiness in their lives and what they've got going on, and you're like, what's going on for me? You know, what about my love life? What about my this, my that? And you can get lost in that, right? You can get lost in idealizing what other people have. And so I would be really careful here. I would definitely, you know, connect with like-minded friends and reconnect with people throughout this retrograde. But don't lose sight of the fact that you're on your own timeline. You don't want to be comparing yourself to other people, because that could kind of bring on the Saturn blues in the 5th house, okay? Good luck, Scorpio. We got Sag and Sag rising. You are experiencing the Sun in Virgo in opposition to Neptune and Pisces. So this is happening in your 10th and 4th house. Obviously, if you're a Sagittarius, Sun, Moon rising 24, 5, 6, 7 degrees, you're going to feel the pinch because you're going to experience a square from both of these. And you and Gemini are kind of like the meat in the sandwich of these particular squares this week. All right, so when you've got the Sun in the 10th house, focusing on career, business, connection with superiors, you know, getting things done, in opposition to Neptune, which can be kind of confusing, emotional, sensitive at home. To me, it seems like career and family matters are feeling like they're in a bit of like a tug of war. There could be some conflict, or you're feeling unclear about these things. Your professional image and personal life are not necessarily aligning in a way that you expected. Now, the good news is that you've had a retrograde here. You've had, you know, the Sun move through here. So you're very much focused on work and productivity. But this opposition to both Saturn and Neptune tells me that in a way it's like you're putting on your happy face, you're going out there and you're getting work done. You're really focused on being consistent, but something's not meshing at home. And so it means that there may be a lot of success, but it's coming at some kind of like dissolving of happiness, connection with family. Perhaps you're like staring at that, you know, pile of laundry and you're like, I haven't had time to get around to it in 2 weeks. There are things you need to be cleaning up or taking care of at home that you're feeling like you're not capable of doing because you've just been so consumed by what's been going on in your professional life. Just take a breath, give yourself a hot minute or two. Don't get overwhelmed. You know, the Sun is the ruler of the 9th house. So it does tell me that the bigger picture is, okay, well, at least I'm working, you know, I'm productive, I'm getting things done. It might mean that you have to take kind of like the mindset of being like, I will get to it when I get to it. There's only so many hours in the day, and not allowing yourself to get wound up about the fact that everything is not happening in like a kind of like a very direct fashion, right? Pisces is a little kind of dissolving and confusing. All right, so let's take a look. Let's see what these cards say for you. Nine of Coins. I mean, producing, taking care of business, being able to provide for yourself, being self-sufficient. And I have found myself saying this to a lot of Sagittarius risings, you know, throughout this retrograde. You had one in the spring in Taurus, now you're having one in Virgo. It can't be all work, no play, right? And so part of having Jupiter retrograde in your 6th house and Uranus there is like finding unconventional ways to make changes in your daily routine, your habits, or your help. You know, if you're really focused on being busy and working, consider hiring someone to help you. Bring somebody in to help you organize the office or assist you. You know, pay the extra money to have your meals delivered or to be able to bring somebody to the house to kind of help you get some odds and ends done. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier, and I feel like you can afford it. And that 9 of coins coming up is also saying now it's time to really take care of you, okay? Good luck, Sag. All right, so we've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You are up next. You are going to be experiencing the sun in your 9th house in opposition to Neptune, which is in your 3rd house. If you happen to be a Capricorn, sun, moon, or rising around 24, 26, 24, 25, 26 degrees, 27 degrees, you're experiencing a trine to these placements, and more specifically to Pluto. So this could actually be a easier transit for you. Yes, the opposition is confusing, but you'll have a trine and you'll have a sextile. So this is good. You can work with those aspects to kind of lighten the heaviness of the opposition. All right, so sun in the 9th in opposition to Neptune in the 3rd. Your quest for knowledge and exploration might be clouded by idealistic thinking or spiritual pursuits, which could impact your communication. Now, I want you to think about how Mercury has been in opposition to Saturn the last couple of weeks, where there's been a lot of exploring, learning, trying to understand, trying to, get these ideas down pat, trying to change your belief system or your philosophy. Maybe you've been trying to travel, maybe you've been trying to plan travel, maybe you've been trying to kind of understand something, and maybe there's been like a sense of feeling blocked, primarily because of the oppositions that you've been seeing to Saturn. So as the sun, ruler of the 8th house of other people's money, joint resources, and change, oppose Neptune, there can be a sense of like there being some miscommunication or misunderstanding about what is owed to you. Maybe you started taking a course and you're like, I don't like this. Can I still qualify for like getting a refund? It's just too confusing. It's not done well. There can be some confusion revolving around a tax situation, an immigration situation, an education situation, and there can definitely be some misunderstandings in regards to documents and money and who owes who what. You would be one of the other signs that I would say be very careful, especially when it comes to like transacting like overseas or sending money to an educational center or to like a teacher or a mentor or a philosopher. Like this can be kind of scammy. Because you might be thinking that you're paying for really good advice and then you realize like the advice kind of sucks or it's vague. So be very careful going and talking to legal professionals or getting a reading with this particular opposition because it may not be worth your time. You may not get a refund. That's kind of the long and short of it. And be mindful in regards to changes going on in regards to how you communicate in your belief system. Don't be booking flights with this opposition either, okay? Just a word to the wise. You get the Hermit card, which is cool. The Hermit card is connected to Virgo. I think a lot of this is actually like, the sun and trine to Pluto in your sign, and the fact that you're realizing I can change something about my belief system. I can change the way that I connect and communicate with people. Maybe you uncover some kind of information because the sun rules the 8th house that makes you feel empowered, or maybe you have a breakthrough in your belief system and you read something that really makes you feel inspired, or it changes your perspective. The Hermit card is about going your own way, taking time to be alone to reflect and like really learn something about yourself and kind of go through this process of like re-emerging. So you might literally need to be by yourself for a little bit or sit and meditate, review a book or some notes before, making a bigger decision and letting other people know what you think. Good luck. You got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You will be experiencing the sun moving through Virgo in your 8th house in opposition to Neptune in your 2nd house in Pisces. All right, so for you guys, this can bring up financial and emotional issues. They may intersect, leading to potential confusion or even deception regarding shared resources. So here's the deal. The sun rules relationships. It's in your 8th house, which means you're undergoing some kind of change and transformation physically, financially, psychologically, when it comes to partners and other people's resources. You have the sun in opposition to Neptune. So likely there can be some deception, especially with other people in transactions. What do they have? What are they willing to give you? What are they being honest about when it comes to resources? Saturn is your traditional ruler. This retrograde is now ending, slightly still in an opposition to Saturn. So there's a lot of like what I need. Can you give it to me or can you not give it to me? Emotionally, financially, sexually, right? All the 8th house. And questioning whether or not you feel like you can be safe with another person, or safe with an advisor who's helping you invest money, or safe when it comes to, you know, talking about your secrets or things that might need to be kind of emotionally unpacked. Watch for these issues, because this is yet another placement where there can be some kind of problems with deception with others. Now, Venus has been going through a retrograde in your 7th house, so likely there's been some reworking of relationships. What might be emerging is going deeper into some of these problems and trying to work it out. So you guys might also be seeking some kind of support from another person, kind of unpacking some of your fears, or maybe working with like a therapist. That could be another way that this could kind of open up for you. But yeah, be careful with those resources. Be careful with those resources. Yeah. All right, let's take a look. Let's see. Ace of Swords makes me feel inclined to tell you, like, have something in writing, have it all spelled out on paper. There can be some really significant conversations going on about joint resources, spending, ownership, what's yours, what's theirs. There might be a negotiation, a contract, right? Ace of Swords. But this is about spelling it all out and getting it very clear, and an opportunity to kind of set the record straight. So maybe it's about truth and honesty, coming clean and talking about a financial situation you've been worried about, talking about what you really need, getting some kind of information, and, like, you know, getting some clarity and being able to have the hard conversations, which can be difficult during a Sun-Neptune day because people want to avoid that. But it looks to me like some relationship is changing or transforming in some way, and you need to go deeper, and it requires some aspect of truth. Good luck. We've got Pisces and Pisces rising. You are going to be experiencing the Sun in Virgo through your 7th house in opposition to Neptune in your 1st house. This is very personal for you. So what happens when you see this opposition? Well, so you've got your relationships, Sun in the 7th, which may challenge your sense of self or involve ideation and confusion. Balance your needs with those of another. All right, so the Sun represents coworkers, your workspace, your health, and obviously you are Neptune. So there's got to be like an issue with a pet, a coworker, some kind of change or a breakdown in a relationship, a healthcare practitioner, right? A miscommunication with like your hairstylist, with somebody that you've got an appointment with, you know, Leo. And the opposition to Neptune is like where something goes overlooked, where you don't see something. Maybe somebody's, you know, forgetting to tell you that they changed an appointment. Maybe somebody is, you know, going through some issues emotionally. They need some private time, and you're kind of feeling like, you know, you're not sure how to communicate, how to connect with them. But you can be idealizing other people with this opposition. It works both ways, both for you and for Virgo. But challenging your sense of self-worth. I mean, look, Mercury's been retrograde in this house, so there's already been lots of miscommunications or back and forth with someone. And maybe you're getting to your breaking point where you're kind of, you know, burnt out and feeling like, I've been back and forth with them so much, I'm just going to take a step back and not feel like I have to constantly be the one who is making the sacrifices for this other person. All right, so let's take a look. But definitely relationship challenges in whether or not you see this actually moving forward. You know, down the road, when Mercury starts to come into opposition with Neptune, I really wonder if, like, by the time somebody has figured out what they want, what direction they're going in, how to better communicate, you're like, I'm done. I don't even want to respond to this message. Possible. It's possible. 5 of Swords. So this talks about like the challenge in terms of getting the point across and finding like a mutual understanding, conflicts, fights, arguments, you know, a bit of a back and forth. And you might be on the end of being like, I just want peace, right? As the Sun goes through the 7th house, it's really similar to the Sun going through your 1st house, where there's a lot of action and focus on you. So when it's going through the 7th, somebody else might be kind of demanding and pushy, and you might be kind of like, man, they need more than what I can give them, or one minute they want to talk and the next minute they don't. Like, what do I give them? So I think that a lot of this is about realizing that if you stay in that dynamic, there's going to be conflict. And if you're taking the route of being like, I'm going to be a little bit more passive and cautious and take a step back and see as they do their do-si-do mentally, where the chips fall and whether or not you're ready to really connect with them. But there is a lot of misunderstandings with the Five of Swords coming up, and definitely some room for conflict. So be mindful that that's in the skies, Pisces, okay? Good luck. When in doubt, you can, I think with that Neptune placement, you can just like check out for a day, right? You can go to the spa, you can zone out and do your own thing and like let somebody else go through the motions, and know that when the time comes, you guys will be able to connect and kind of have a conversation and be on the same wavelength. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys in understanding why things are a bit of like a clown show out there. And I'd love to hear from you. You know, let me know how you're doing with this particular transit. Are you already seeing it? Are you feeling it? Like I am. It's been a bit of a wild ride the last couple of days, so I was like, I need to get ahead of this. Remember, as I leave you, there are no classes in how to navigate a bureaucracy, on how to build an organization, how to raise money, how to create a database, how to buy a house, how to help the homeless, how to spot a scam, or how to talk someone out of suicide, or figure out what's important to you. All the events that take place this week can feel very overwhelming. We can feel lost, but the key is how to pull it together and find a way to figure it out. So try to stay optimistic, try to reach out to other people. If you are in need of help, let them know. That's the way out of this, is not feeling alone, not feeling disempowered, realizing that a lot of the issues that we're facing right now collectively and on a personal level, nobody taught us how to navigate these things. So we want to be leaning in the direction of feeling empowered rather than chickening out of going through the tough stuff and really growing through some of these situations. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Please consider sharing. It's really helpful for the algorithms of the channel. Any thumbs up or any interactions I have with the channel helps the channel grow. If you guys like my content, you can support me by joining my memberships, or you can donate. Click those links below in the description. Hello. And it's not too late to join my webinar. So if you're watching this on Thursday, I'm going to have a webinar this Sunday, midday. This is going to be on the fall 2023 eclipses. I hope you guys join me. Click the link below if you would like to head over to my website. You can sign up and you can get a ticket. It'll be a live discussion on the solar eclipse in Libra and the lunar eclipse in Taurus taking place next month. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe to my newsletter, because we have lots of new goodies and things coming out on my website over the next couple of months. We're going to be doing some drops for some calendars and some new candles and some other things that I'm kind of putting together for the fall. Until next time, I'll see all of you guys very soon. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and you guys take care.